Where the high-resolution A7R, high-ISO A7S, and high-speed A9 are all specialists, the base Sony A7 has always been more of a generalist. It's okay at a variety of tasks, but doesn't excel in any one. Or at least, that's how it used to be. When Sony introduced the A7 III, it proudly claimed it would redefine what it meant to be a basic camera. With its combination of excellent image quality, blazing fast performance, and really solid video features, this isn't just an affordable entry-level model, it's an aspirational product of its own, and probably the most valuable camera in Sony's full-frame lineup. And yes, we get it that this video is quite late, but there's a reason we like to look at products even many months after their release. When we published our initial hands-on with the A7 III, we were easily blown away. But since then, other brands have had a chance to catch up with Sony's new definition of the basic model. Canon and Nikon have entered the full-frame mirrorless game, and the Nikon Z6 in particular is a direct competitor to the A7 III, offering the same resolution, similar performance numbers, and importantly, the same $2,000 price tag. But before we get carried away talking about the competition, let's talk about what the A7 III is and what it does really well, because there's a lot. Like the A7 and A7 II before it, the Mark III is built around a 24 megapixel sensor, but this one is now backside illuminated, meaning more surface area is exposed to light, making it more sensitive. If you believe the wizards over at DxOMark, it actually matches the A7R III for dynamic range and puts up the best score of any full-frame camera for high ISO noise. In our testing, we found ISO 25600 to be surprisingly usable, although the maximum 51200 did introduce a noticeable magenta color shift and quite a bit more noise. Still, with some modest noise reduction in Lightroom, it's not too bad. So unless you absolutely need more resolution, the A7 III is just about equal or better than any other full-frame camera on the market for both low and high ISO shooting. Add to this the 10 frames per second continuous shooting speed, and it has more than enough speed for most of us. Plus, you get the 693-point autofocus system from the A9, a camera that costs more than twice as much. And don't forget about the 5-axis stabilization, which is now good for 5 stops of shake reduction, half a stop better than the A7 II. So, review over, go buy it. Well, maybe not so fast. A few months ago, the A7 III was a shoo-in, but it's no longer running uncontested. The Nikon Z6 is a compelling alternative and does actually offer some things not found on the Sony, such as 10-bit 4K video output. The A7 III does offer much more control for internal video recording, however, with S-Log 2 and 3, 4 different flavors of hybrid log gamma, and a wealth of additional settings you can customize. The Z6 does have a faster maximum burst rate of 12 frames per second, but image quality does drop to 12-bit RAW in this mode. At 14-bit, it's limited to 9 FPS, whereas the Sony can shoot 14-bit at its full 10 FPS. The A7 III also boasts vastly superior battery life, with a CEPA rating of 710 exposures compared to just 330 for the Z6. And as always, in real-world conditions, you may get much more than this. Ultimately though, your choice may be less about specs and more just about your personal preferences, which of course are going to be determined by many different things. For example, we're not huge fans of Sony's user interface. In terms of physical controls, it makes somewhat poor use of the camera's real estate, with plenty of empty space on top and on front, where additional direct access controls or a top LCD screen could have been placed. Worse though is the menu system, which organizes some settings together in a way that just doesn't seem to make sense. In time, you'll get used to whatever camera you buy, so this isn't a huge issue, but it is one area where Sony could see some refinement. And this is not to say that Nikon or Canon or anyone else doesn't have their own issues, but it's one of those things you may want to consider and look into before making a decision. Overall, we were really impressed with the A7 III. It's an incredibly capable, very responsive camera that performs above expectations in a wide variety of scenarios. While it may not be quite as obvious a choice as it was when it launched, the A7 III remains one of the top options in this class and even reaches beyond its class. We can wholeheartedly recommend it to a wide variety of photographers even professionals who could afford much more. When it comes to full-frame mirrorless, Sony may no longer be the only game in town, but in many ways, it is still the best.